going on? Why don't they like it? We spent $1 billion on this. Stop booing! You're hurting my feelers! Hey everyone, how are you all doing? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Krazy Ken, and when you hear the name Philips, you probably think of razors or light bulbs, right? But back in the 90s, they were trying to release a new format into the world and make it mainstream, and they called it Compact Disc Interactive, or CDI. But it failed. Pretty hard. But without it, gaming history may have been completely different than what we have today. So to find out what really happened, I'm going to go back to the 90s. And you are going to join. Yes, the 1890s. Philips has been around since 1891. Originally founded by Dutch entrepreneur Gerard Philips and his father Frederick, the company's first products were incandescent light bulbs. But for the sake of this story, we can jump ahead to 1982, which was a very important year for Philips. This was the year a certain technology was released that I guarantee all of you have used, or at least heard of, in your life. The compact disc. The CD format originally launched in Japan on October 1st, 1982, and in North America and Europe in March of 1983. Philips played a major role in developing and marketing this standard, but they didn't do it alone. They partnered with this tiny, humble Japanese electronics company. Sony. Yeah, they were actually giant. Everybody knows Sony. The CD standard was originally used to store digital audio data. In fact, the standard was officially named Compact Disc Digital Audio, or CDDA. But wait, a smart person from somewhere probably said, if we can store digital audio on a CD, why not other forms of data? That person was onto something. Philips and Sony conceived a second CD standard in 1983, and it was released to the public in 1985. It was named CD-ROM, read-only memory. But Philips wasn't slowing down. While the CD-ROM standard was being finished, they were hard at work on a third CD standard, CDI. The development of this standard started in 1984 between Philips, Sony, and Matsushita, who worked on integrated circuits for the upcoming hardware. Physically, CDI discs are the same size as a CDDA, but the CDI capacity varied between 648 and 744 megabytes, and it could store up to 72 minutes of video. When combined with the CDI player, Philips aimed to create a system that played interactive titles along with other types of media on a user's TV. Another goal of CDI was to be more easy to use than a computer and also more affordable. And when you consider the prices of CD-ROM drives for PCs between 1985 and 1990, this lower cost idea had some merit to it. In fact, a Philips executive said CDI will be the medium for entertainment, education, and information in the 90s. Philips was really betting on this format. As for the rest of the technical details, all the CDI specifications are defined in the Green Book. Philips and Sony wrote 9 Rainbow books to define CD standards. Now, these 3 companies were hard at work for 2 years. Now, it's time to show something to the public. Seattle, March 1986. Microsoft was hosting their first CD-ROM conference, and Philips and Sony officially revealed the CDI format publicly. Quickly, CDI gained interest from manufacturers, and other companies wanted to back it too. I mean, hey, Philips was successful with the CD, right? So the CDI could be successful too. Philips and Sony were gearing up to launch CDI hardware and software to consumers by Christmas of 1987. And they succeeded in not doing that. Remember, late is temporary, suck is forever. So let's all be patient and just give Philips some time. What the heck was that? Hello? Henrietta? Is that you? Oh wait, he exploded. Anyway, I'll figure that out later. What caused the CDI's delay? Another format, Digital Video Interactive, was demonstrated at the second CD-ROM conference by RCA in March 1987. It supported full-screen, full-motion video. After seeing this demo, Philips and Sony decided to delay CDI to 1988 by 1 year, so they could add these capabilities, and perhaps that would pay off because you will see full motion video in a lot of software titles for the CDI. But RCA wasn't the CDI's only competitor. The CD-ROM was still improving. It was backed by Microsoft, and CD-ROM products were already in the market by 1987. So would the CDI be able to catch up? CDI was delayed to 1989, then 1990. Then, finally, at the Summer CES show in 1991, Philips revealed the first CDI hardware units, which were planned to ship to retail by October. This time, they actually hit that deadline. Good job. CDI hardware and software was now hitting the market. At this point, it was estimated that Philips spent about $250 million to get this thing off the ground. So hopefully there's some ROI in all of this. So we looked at the CDI format, but hey, we need players, right? The format is kind of useless without the players. So let's take a look at some of the hardware. Oh no, not again. Hey everybody. It's Clone Ken. Yeah, long time no see. I don't think you've seen me since, trying to remember. The Jurassic Park parody, that's what it was. Anyway, Krazy Ken asked me to fill in for him just in case he ever disappeared due to forces beyond his understanding, and apparently that is what happened. Actually, I just woke up from a nap on my new mattress. Et voila! Here it is! I'm gonna hit you with a surprising fact. 100% of people sleep. Okay, that maybe wasn't so surprising, but I'm sure most people don't really think about how much time they actually spend on a mattress. 1/3 of your entire life is spent in bed, so why compromise on your mattress? You deserve the best. That's where Helix steps in. I first heard about Helix from another YouTube channel I watched, and later, when a friend suggested I look into them more, I was intrigued, and I liked what I saw. Helix makes and ships premium mattresses to your door, and they have 20 to choose from. All I had to do was take a simple quiz, and there you have it. I was matched with a Helix Midnight mattress. I like that Helix offers this quiz and a variety of mattresses, because everyone's body is different. Helix is so much better than a one-size-fits-all solution. And it was a perfect match. When I first laid on this thing, I just instinctively let out an audible whoa. It is so comfy. It's really soft, and it absorbs my mass very well, but at the same time, I'm not sinking into it. And it's also not too bouncy. I've been testing this new mattress lately, and I love sleeping on it.
How did you get in here?
Another nice touch are the built-in handles, which make it easy to move. You know me and my vintage computers. I love built-in handles on my stuff. And the cherry on top is, the shipping is free, and Helix gives you a 120-night sleep trial and a lifetime warranty. So if you test your mattress for a while and you want to swap it out with something else, you can do that. Helix makes it easy. And the time to get one is right now. Save 27% off site-wide with my link below. And my friend Sonic loves it too. Geez, Sonic, use a bed sheet. What, were you born in a barn? Actually, you probably were, come to think of it. So click the link in the description and enjoy a good night's sleep with Helix. Alright. I hope Ken is doing okay. Wherever he is. Whoa. Where the Dell am I?
You're in nostalgia space, Ken.
Ah! Whoa! Who the heck are you?
I am the omnipresent embodiment of the emotion of nostalgia appearing in a corporeal form visible to the human eye.
Alright, that's...
You can call me Joe, or Joseph for short.
How is that shorter?
I brought you here today because I'm sensing overwhelming loads of nostalgia emitting from your tiny head.
Tiny? All the YouTube commenters say it's big and round.
As the embodiment of nostalgia, I fuel of nostalgia. I need it to live.
Okay, so suck it out of my head and let me get back to my show.
Oh, no, it doesn't work that way.
Of course it doesn't.
You need to be honest with yourself and let the nostalgic energy flow from within.
Okay, I like the CDI games. Those are nostalgic to me.
Dig deeper.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, being honest with strangers is not something I'm fond of.
Don't worry, I'll help crack your head open so we can see what's going on inside. Metaphorically, of course.
Okay, well, I'll think about it. Can I get back to my show?
That's all I ask. Hop to it. I'll be watching.
Okay, creepy. Okay, I don't know what the heck that was all about, but I suppose he has a point. I do get nostalgic for CDI stuff, and I'm sure many of you do as well, and that's why I'm so excited to share this story with you. So, before I disappear into the ether again, let's take a look at some players. When the CDI format was in its early stages, many companies showed interest in producing player hardware, and these companies were allowed to put their own spin on CDI players as long as they adhered to the specifications in the Green Book. The first CDI player to hit the consumer market was the Philips CDI 910, released on October 16, 1991. The 910 is a multi-purpose system which looks kind of like a CD player, but it has a computer on the inside, powered by a 15.5 MHz Philips microprocessor, which is based on the Motorola 68000. The 910 and other CDI players also ran their own operating system, CD-ROM, which is based on Microware OS 9 version 2.4. The system also has 8 kilobytes of non-volatile memory, so information like high scores and settings can be saved even if the player is unplugged. Of course, the CDI 910 can run interactive programs and games using the compact disc interactive format, including bridge discs, but it can also play audio CDs, CD BGM, karaoke CDs, and photo CDs. Animations and video are critical to the CDI experience, so the 910 shipped with a built-in Philips Video and Systems Controller chip for video decoding. This gave the 910 access to 2 planes, or layers, both of which support animation in 128 colors or a 24-bit static picture. It could also play 24-bit color video at a lower frame rate if the footage used less of the screen, and these videos could play with CD quality sound too. But what if an application or movie needs to play in full screen with 24-bit color and 30 frames per second? Don't worry, the CDI has you covered. If you want to watch a movie, the 910 can play video CDs with the optional digital video cartridge, which decoded MPEG-1 video. This cartridge is also useful for games which need full motion video, which you'll see more of later. In addition, Philips introduced their own video CD-esque format named CDI Digital Video, and I think the quality looks really good given the time period, especially considering DVDs didn't come to the US until 1997. These video features looked great, but unfortunately the digital video cartridge wouldn't come out for another 2 years. So, you'd have to wait. Philips knew it was coming though. They put a slot on the back of the player, knowing they'd ship the cartridge eventually. As for the 910's design, it's a dark gray monolithic block with a curved CD tray. Nothing too flashy. It's a function over form design if I do say so. On the front are several media controls and a volume knob, and there was also a display panel. The user could also control the system with the included remote, which had a thumbstick built in. The remote I'm borrowing has a slightly broken thumbstick. This seems to be a common issue, but you get the idea. The thumbstick controls a cursor on the screen similar to how a PC would work with a mouse. And to click, you simply press one of the action buttons. Different programs can assign different functions to each button. And beneath the thumbstick are media controls just like what we saw on the unit itself. The 910 has various ports on the front and back, and it even has audio out for hi-fi systems. Now, the media controls and the wireless remote weren't the only ways to control the system. Philips offered flexibility with wired accessories. A pointing device could be plugged into the front input port, and a secondary pointing device could also be plugged into the back. Optional Philips pointing devices included a mouse, roller controller, and trackball. So that's the CDI 910 with the included thumbstick remote. And all of this could be yours for $1,000. That was the MSRP, equivalent to about $2,350 in 2026. And when the video cartridge comes out, that'll be another $250. Realistically, the 910 actually sold for about $800 without the video cartridge, depending on where you bought it. But still, up to $1,250 is a lot to ask from a consumer. So that might hinder the CDI's success a little bit. And perhaps Philips learned this lesson, because soon, little spoiler alert here, you'll see the price drop. Now perhaps the 910 isn't fancy enough for you. Maybe you want something a little more high-end. In 1992, Philips launched the CDI 220 with a tweaked design. The most noticeable difference is this nifty door that folds down when the disk drive ejects. It also normally folds back up, but this guy's a little bit old, so we'll give him a nudge. The front-facing ports were also hidden behind a separate door, and overall, I think the 220 looks sleeker than the 910. In 1993, Philips released a stripped-down, lower-cost version of the 220, the CDI 210. It was sold under the Philips name in the European markets, but in the US, it was sold under the name of a Philips subsidiary, Magnavox. At this time, Magnavox had more brand recognition in America, so that is likely why Philips used that name for their US products and not the Philips name, and they will continue to use that name in US markets going forward. Over time, Philips launched several more CDI players and more pointing devices, like the Commander Remote and the Peacekeeper. This was useful for playing games like Mad Dog McCree. Third-party companies launched their own players too, like Sony's portable product, the Intelligent Discman, and Goldstar's GDI 700. Many of these third-party players were OEM versions of the Magnavox/Philips models, meaning they were pretty much the same except for the brand name and some other minor tweaks. If I had to make an educated guess, I'm assuming this OEM strategy was part of the plan to get CDI into more people's homes and just expand the reach. But it wasn't just the home Philips was concerned with. They were also interested in professional markets. These professional players and authoring systems offered more features like floppy drives, more I/O, built-in digital video, and in the case of the 180 authoring system, modularity. In fact, the 180/181/182 was the first Philips CDI player ever produced. It just wasn't for the consumer market. These professional CDI players were commonly used for multimedia presentations, retail training, store kiosks, etc. I may not have a professional player in my possession, but boy, do I have this Burger King training program. Now, the CDI players need programs, of course, but how are they made? That's where the authoring systems and authoring software play a big role. To enable developers to make software for this all-new format, Philips had to provide the tools to do so. So Philips partnered with Sun, Microware, and National Computer Services to form OptImage. And through this partnership, they created Media Mogul, an authoring package specifically designed for creating CDI software. Developers could also engineer custom software with C and 68000 assembly, and the OptImage Balboa runtime environment provided libraries to help streamline the process. Now I think would be a good time to look at the fruits of the developer's labor. Not literal fruits, of course, because they would probably be moldy by now. The CDI today is primarily known for its games of varying degrees of quality, but gaming wasn't the biggest focus at launch.
I see, like a video.
Oh, please, Phil. Never refer to CDI as just a video game.
Why not? It looks like
It's so much more.
Instead, the focus was on multimedia and edutainment. When the CDI launched, about 50 software titles were available, most of which were published by Philips Interactive Media. Some of the titles included Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, Treasures of the Smithsonian, Sesame Street, The Berenstain Bears, and Cartoon Jukebox. Philips also released a 14.4K modem so users could connect their CDI to the internet with a new web browsing application named CD Online. Over the next several years, the software library for CDI grew to hundreds of titles, and over 200 of those titles were video games. Breaking news: CDI sales are struggling against low-cost PCs in the multimedia market. As a result, in 1992, CDI players were already dropping in price. Yeah, CDI was in a tough spot, but Philips wasn't giving up. Despite initially marketing this product as a multimedia/home entertainment system, they noticed 65% of their software sales were from one category: games. The 90s was booming with new video game consoles. They were the hot new thing to own. Sega! In fact, just during the CDI's delays, Sega launched the wildly successful Genesis in 1989, which went on to sell 35 million units globally. And Nintendo launched the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which sold 49 million units globally. People wanted game consoles. So, starting in 1994, Philips shifted gears to market the CDI with more of an emphasis on gaming. In June of that year, Philips revealed the CDI 450, and I love the design of this thing. I am a sucker for curves. It was significantly more compact and affordable compared to the previous models, and it was meant to compete with systems like the Amiga CD32, and the Panasonic 3DO. There was no IR receiver on the 450, so it only worked with wired controllers. It shipped with a new CDI controller, unofficially called the paddle controller, and the system only had one input, so for 2-player games you would need to use a splitter. And despite its compact design, there is still room for a digital video cartridge under this cover. And the price? Only $299. Much more affordable than the $800-ish units we were looking at earlier. And you're getting a lot for that $299. The 450 was still compatible with other types of discs, like photo CDs and audio CDs, and with the digital video cartridge, video CDs. So despite having an emphasis on gaming, it was still multi-purpose. But we can't have a game console without games, right? So let's take a look at some of the games that were available on CDI. Oh, no. Let's not talk about the infamous ones yet. Oh, believe me, we'll get there. Popular game shows were adapted into CDI games, such as Lingo, The Joker's Wild, and Jeopardy! Other games included Pack Attack, Lemmings, NFL Hall of Fame Football, Palm Springs Open Golf, and Clue with full motion video scenes, made possible with the digital video cartridge. Or you could play the racy political murder mystery game Voyeur. Now, since this game was a little more caliente, you actually needed an access code to play it, so kids couldn't accidentally run the game. Which makes me wonder why Sid suggested this game to Little Timmy's mom while Little Timmy was still in the room? Don't make enemies with Little Timmy. He'll come over to your house and format your hard drive. Believe me, I've seen him do it.
Timmy, you're not doing anything. Oh, no. Timmy, don't touch it. Don't touch anything. Please don't do anything.
Mom, what does erase disc mean?
Another noteworthy title was Mad Dog McCree, which was a shooting game with full motion video, and this game came with the Peacekeeper we saw earlier. There was also Chaos Control, which... wait. Chaos Control?
Chaos Control! Chaos Control! Chaos Control!
Are you trying to tell me the Sonic universe didn't create Chaos Control first? My life is a lie. Anyway, Chaos Control is a rail shooter, which I think looks cool, but you don't have much control over the ship's movement in the game, and overall I think the motion feels very slow, which you've probably noticed is a recurring issue with some other CDI titles. Although I still think the 3D graphics look nice, and CDI achieves this by not rendering them in real time. Instead, the 3D graphics are pre-rendered into full motion video. Oh, Burn Cycle, we can't forget this one. This game actually didn't require the full motion video capabilities of the digital video cartridge, but it still looks amazing. Burn Cycle is one of the more positively reviewed CDI titles ever made. It combines live action video with 3D backgrounds, creating an interactive point-and-click experience with more of a cinematic edge. In general, the CDI's full motion video capabilities appeared to be one of the more highly praised features of the entire system. Okay, the time has come. And I tell you, I have been savoring this moment. It is time to talk about the Nintendo games. Getting exclusive titles with Nintendo IP on your system would be a huge win. Certainly, Philips would do everything in their power to not screw this up, right? But before we talk about the games themselves, we must talk about another Nintendo partnership. One that actually wasn't with Philips. If you take nothing else away from this episode, I hope you remember this part. Because the events that are about to unfold changed the gaming industry forever. Back in 1988, 3 years before the Philips-Nintendo partnership was announced publicly, Nintendo forged a partnership with a competitor of Philips, Sony. Nintendo wanted Sony to help create a CD-based add-on for their upcoming consoles, the Super Famicom and Super NES. This technology would allow for full motion video and larger games. But here's the cherry on top of this whole deal. Part of the agreement said Sony could create a new Sony-branded console that was compatible with the Super Famicom/SNES cartridges and also CD games. And what would Sony name this new hybrid console? PlayStation. But the partnership got rocky when Nintendo realized Sony would have complete control over this new CD format, named SuperDisc, and the software licensing too. Nintendo found these terms unacceptable and suspected Sony was using them primarily for the goal of launching their own Sony-branded console. So Nintendo started looking for another partner. During the summer CES show in 1991, Sony revealed its PlayStation console to the public. And literally, the next day, at the same event, Nintendo unveiled its new partnership with Sony's rival, Philips. Holy frick, this is better than my soap operas. I have to mime it, we don't have budget for popcorn. So now Philips was working with Nintendo to create this CD-based add-on. And part of the deal said, Philips, you now have permission to use some of our Nintendo characters in your games. Now you might be thinking, Ken, I never saw this Super NES CD thing. What's up with that? It was canceled. Following the poor reception of the Sega CD, the Super NES ND drive never passed the prototype stage, and the product was quietly abandoned during the summer of 1993. Nintendo would not release an optical media disc-based console until the GameCube in 2001. Well, darn it, all that dramatic treachery for nothing. Well, not exactly. First off, Nintendo and Sony made up, so everyone's chill, right? Now kiss. And second, Sony kept the PlayStation name and made their own CD-based console, which became the PlayStation we know today. Yep, the Sony PlayStation was, more or less, created out of a disagreement between Nintendo and Sony. Amazing. And it went on to sell over 600 million units. So I think this whole mess worked out well for Sony. But something else remained from all of this other stuff getting scrapped. Philips still had the license to use Nintendo characters for their CDI games. The first two games that spawned from this deal were Link, The Faces of Evil, and Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon. Okay, that sounds promising. Philips. Heart-to-heart time. I know that previous debacle was a bit of a mess, but you have a great opportunity here. But remember, Legend of Zelda is popular, and it has many die-hard fans. So, you're going to want to pull out all the stops for these games. Or hire a new studio that has never released a game before and provide a tiny budget of only $1.2 million. Okay, well, maybe it won't be that bad. Let's fire up Link, The Faces of Evil.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
My boy, this peace is what all true warriors strive for.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
Come back when you're a little, richer.
Join me, Link, and I will make your face the greatest in Cudahy, or else you will die.
I won!
Alright, I hope you enjoyed my speedrun. Yeah, I mean, the animated cutscenes are kind of cool to see, and it's nice hearing the characters speak, but some of the animation just looks, off. However, generally, audiences and critics like the animations. They were much more critical about the gameplay and controls. Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon was released at the same time as Faces of Evil and received similar compliments and criticism.
I wonder what's for dinner.
But I'm not done yet. What other Nintendo characters do we have coming to CDI? Why, the Super Mario Brothers, of course. I mean, heck, Sonic was already on CD, so we have to get Mario on there too. That's right, everyone. It's time to check in to Hotel Mario.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi? I hope she made lots of spaghetti. Luigi, look!
In my opinion, Hotel Mario just looks and feels better than the Zelda games, but perhaps that had something to do with the development. It was mostly made in-house at Philips instead of outsourced to another studio, like what happened with the Zelda games. However, after playing Hotel Mario for a while, it felt way too repetitive and boring. The camera is static, and you just kinda do the same thing over and over again. It's not necessarily a terrible game, it's just not really a great Mario game. But hey, to each their own. By the way, I have to give a huge shout out to James, who drew this Hotel Mario artwork for the computer screen back here. He did it in MS Paint with a ball mouse, so yeah. You have skills, my friend. Okay, so who's next? Oh, Donkey Kong. I am so excited. Oh, it's another Zelda game. This time by a different studio. Veritas? This is Zelda's Adventure. It was only released in Europe, and personally, I think it is worse than the first two Zelda CDI games. I'll admit, I haven't actually played the game myself, but I have a valid reason. I really don't want to. Just from watching other people play through it, it looks extremely low budget and has none of the charm of the first two games in terms of cutscenes or style. And there is so much loading. It is unbearable. And the acting is... See for yourself.
Some fiend has put my blue knight to shame and defeated my green knight. This will be punished.
I get it, making games is really hard, and everybody was probably just trying to do their jobs on what appears to be a budget of 62 cents. But I just have to wonder, was anyone proud of making this? All right, let's get the good energy going. You know what time it is? It is time for Donkey Kong. Really? All this Nintendo hype for only 4 games? Nice job. Nintendo wasn't heavily involved with these games, by the way. You maybe could tell. In fact, they don't even consider them canon. And if that's not a sign for how little Nintendo believed in CDI, then I don't know what is. But it's not all bad news. Even though these games weren't well received, something good came out of them. Memes. That's right, lots and lots of memes. Faces of Evil, Wand of Gamelon, Hotel Mario, Zelda's Adventure. Actually, no one cared about that one. They've been memed excessively. The games truly exhibited the phenomenon of it's so bad that it's good. It's like the movie The Room. It's not necessarily a great movie by itself, but it gained a cult following because of how bad it is, and it's just fun to watch and laugh at. I mean, I certainly like it. I bought the frickin' Blu-ray. The memes from these games started populating the internet around 2007, and are still spreading and multiplying today. These memes also played a huge role in forming the YouTube poop parody genre.
Spaghetti!
No!
And Morshu. Oh my gosh, people are dedicated to this man. Morshu has 2 lines of dialogue in the entire Faces of Evil game. That's it. Yet he gets memed a lot. No Space has even created a text-to-speech program that uses Morshu's voice, and Casually Overcomplicated used it to read the entire Bible. The entire Bible from a game character with 2 lines of dialogue. Technology is amazing. I freaking love Morshu, and I love the CDI memes so much. And I remember finding these older CDI meme videos around 2008, and I still find myself going back to them sometimes.
I can tell you're very nostalgic for these videos and memes.
Please stop doing that.
Tell me more.
What, are you my therapist?
No, I'm Joe.
Okay, well, these memes were an important part of my childhood. I'm definitely not a sophisticated art connoisseur.
No, that's okay. They're special to you, and that's valid. But I'm sensing something else from your aura.
What do you mean?
Well, it appears there is another reason why this media was important to you.
I suppose it's because these memes and YTPs were the reason I discovered the CDI in the first place?
Good, but I'm sensing something deeper.
Is this you trying to crack my head open metaphorically?
Yes.
I guess I also, I guess I just miss those times. They were simpler times.
Simpler how?
Well, I don't know. Things just seemed easier. I had less responsibilities, I suppose. And from a tech standpoint, oh gosh, don't even get me started. Software wasn't vibe coded out the wazoo, video game boxes actually had video games in them, Messaging apps didn't eat up 4 gigabytes of RAM, you didn't need to click a million cookie buttons to browse the web, almost nothing required a subscription, every appliance you owned didn't need another mother-fudging app for it to work, AI slop wasn't ruining the internet, and treadmills didn't require software updates.
How would you know how a treadmill works?
Hey, come on, I'm working through something here.
Sorry.
Just, I don't know. What happened? Why do I feel so nostalgic for the past and somewhat hateful toward the present?
You know why.
No, seriously, tell me.
Well, if I told you, you wouldn't grow as a person. Plus, it would ruin the dramatic tension of the episode.
Wait, huh?
Listen, get back to exploring the CDI and see if that helps you do some soul searching. You know where to find me.
No, I actually don't. Wait! Soul searching, huh? I guess I'll try my best. Actually, it sounds like Phillips needs to do some soul searching too. Did this pivot towards more of a gaming focus actually help? Realistically, maybe it did a little bit. I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. But in the grand scheme of things, unfortunately, it didn't move the needle. By 1995, Philips sold 1 million CDI players worldwide. Most of those sales came from Europe, and US sales were around 400,000, but they were falling flat. Compared to the success of game consoles, PCs, and Macs, CDI sales were very low. A small glimmer of hope in all of this was CDI players actually sold pretty decently in professional markets, namely for education and training. But those sales were still not enough to save the ecosystem. CDI was now on life support. In April 1995, Philips Interactive Media changed their name to simply Philips Media, and started releasing titles on other platforms, including PC. But CDI was still bleeding money. Then came the fateful summer of 1996, where Philips threw in the towel, and they officially discontinued their consumer CDI players. Which means, since its delayed launch, Philips and Magnavox's consumer CDI players lasted less than 5 years on the market. But then, in June of 1999, Philips completely discontinued the CDI. In the end, it was reported that Philips had lost $1 billion trying to make CDI work. Man, I'll be honest, it's almost upsetting to see all this work go to waste. And you know, maybe it wasn't all wasted, and it looks like they tried, like they really tried, but I still feel kind of bad for them. Especially considering Philips was very successful at launching the original CD and CD-ROM, but when they attempted CDI, it just completely failed. Which leads to the question, why? Between Savvy Sage's thorough research for this episode, plus my own research, and the 18 people I interviewed, I have come to the following 4 main reasons as to why I think CDI failed. First, it took way too long to come out. If Philips was able to release the CDI by the original Christmas 1987 date, maybe it would still be around today. I don't know, it at least would have been way more successful, I believe. The delays also caused issues with third parties who wanted to develop for the platform, namely EA and Activision. They eventually dropped out. Second, it was positioned wrong in the market. I think Philips should have had better foresight into what consumers wanted with the rise of consoles. I know gaming wasn't a huge focus when CDI first launched, but it should have been. Hey, hindsight is 20/20, right? Third, underpowered hardware. When the CDI came out, the hardware was already several years old, and it was simply not ready for the game pivot Philips attempted in 1994. Overall performance was also an issue. And the fourth issue, I believe, is the biggest, because all the previous issues are likely a result because of it. Philips tried doing way too much. When you release a new product, the value proposition has to be very clear, and it has to be executed well. Your product needs to be very good at a key single task before you add on more features. Take the iPod, for example. Before Apple added photos, videos, games, and touchscreens to it, it took them 3 generations to get the iPod to be really good at one key task: playing music. Similar with Xbox and PlayStation. They have various capabilities today, almost like a supercharged CDI. But they both started with being a great game console first. There were other obstacles too. The price was pretty high at the beginning, so that likely deterred consumers, and Philips was constantly fighting against the maturing and growing PC, CD-ROM, and game console market. And I think the final nail in the coffin was DVD hitting the market in late 96, early 97. The quality and capacity was higher than what a CDI player supported, and you didn't need to break movies into 2 discs like you did with video CD and CDI digital video.
DVD video will be released as a consumer movie player in the near future. So long as interactive digital video, simple operation, and low cost are requirements, CDI will remain the best choice of multimedia systems.
After the CDI's discontinuation, its reputation suffered further. Bill Gates called it a terrible game machine and a terrible PC, and critics were, well, critical of the system, games, and controls. Man, making a product is hard. I mean, you put all this work into it, and you just fight, and you fight, and you fight to make it work, and it still doesn't work. You just get screwed at the end of it, so why bother? What is the point? I mean, seriously, what is the point?
Whoa, slow down, man. No need to get all negative.
Or what? I'll harsh your nostalgia buzz? If you're gonna keep kidnapping me and bringing me back to your stupid mountains, why don't you tell me what I want to know?
About why you feel nostalgic for the past and somewhat hateful toward the present?
Yes!
I already said, I can't...
I've been giving you nostalgia energy, right? You owe me.
That's not...
Tell me!
But...
Now!
You grew up.
I grew up.
That's not a bad thing, though. There's plenty of things you can do now that you're older. You have a lot more freedom.
That's true. Before I got trapped 10 stories underground, anyway.
And you broadcast your show on the World Wide Web.
Nobody really calls it that anymore, but true. Yeah, that has been a lot of fun.
And you met lots of cool friends.
Yeah.
See? You have to take the good with the bad. The past may have been fun, but you have to live in the now. Time waits for no man. Believe me, I know.
It's just... not the same.
True. Times are different, but different doesn't mean bad. It just means different.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks for reminding me.
Hey, guess what?
What?
I think we cracked your head open.
Yeah.
Now get back down there. You have a story to finish.
Even though the CDI fell on its face, it wasn't all bad. It helped pave the way for newer technologies, for the internet, and for the next popular disc standard, DVD. And it's incredible how much of a dedicated following this obscure system still has. And I'm super grateful to people who maintain websites like World of CDI and the new International CDI Association. These efforts prevent CDI from being lost to time, which would be really sad if that happened. I'm also grateful for creators like AVGN, Wrestling with Gaming, the 8-Bit Guy, and others for keeping CDI alive in today's internet culture. Even if you simply take out your CDI and play it once in a while, that means something. But the dedication doesn't stop there. The community still makes hardware modifications for CDI, and even new games. Heck, an indie developer created a spiritual successor to the Zelda CDI games. They named it R.Z, the Jewel of Faramore. And when you play it, you can see the spirit of CDI shine through. And collectively, everyone's hard work to keep the system alive 27 years later is commendable. Your work and your passion is truly a love letter to the CDI.